Colossians 2:8 says this, don't let anyone capture you with empty philosophies and high-sounding nonsense that come from human thinking and from the spiritual powers of this world rather than from Christ. I know we hear this kind of talk every once in a while, and you've said it in your family, I've said it in my family. If so-and-so was still alive, if so-and-so heard this, they'd roll over in their grave. Here's a reality. Can you imagine living 100 years ago and coming back as a Christian and coming back today and seeing how far removed so much of the church is from what we started? See, we'll accept somebody that says they're a pastor. We don't even know if they're saved. You say, well, I thought all pastors were saved. Well, you better not be thinking that. And you say, do you have proof? Oh, yeah, I've heard many pastors testify, but I walked with one for over 18 years that was that way. No, he was saved when I walked with him. But Pastor Whitfield at Agape Faith, and I'm not saying anything he hadn't said plenty of times publicly. But Jason, you've heard him say it many times. He went to Methodist seminary. He was a Methodist pastor, and then he got born again. Now, am I saying that all Methodist pastors are not saved? No, I am not saying that. Don't put words in my mouth. We just heard a testimony from my mentor and coach Wednesday night, Dr. Dean Rackey, where he got saved in a Presbyterian church. The pastor was not saved. When he went to him and told him what happened, he couldn't even explain what had happened to him. How many of you believe it's a good idea to get your pastor saved? Amen. But yet, think about this. Here's where I want you to go. When you hear someone say they're a pope, they're a pastor, they're a doctor of theology, this is where we get into this empty philosophies, this high-sounding nonsense. See, there's people that went to seminary that don't know Jesus, make me look like Ned in the first grade when it comes to education. But unless they know the Spirit, all they're doing is high-sounding nonsense. Jesus, I love Jesus. He loves me. He loves you. I love the way the Lord gave us an example. Nicodemus was the guy. He was the religious scholar. He the man. And he come to Jesus by night. That tells you something. Why did he come at night? Because he didn't want his friends knowing where he was going. And he asked Jesus a very deep question. He said, how must I inherit the kingdom of heaven? Deep question. Very deep. And Jesus gave him the truth. Very deep, but don't sound deep. You must be born again. And Jesus ended all religious arguments at that point. I taught Sunday school for 50 years. Are you born again? My dad, the one that always gets me is people I witness to. My dad was a pastor. My grandpa was a pastor. I understand. Have you accepted Jesus into your heart? Because there's a lot of things that will happen on the day that we meet the Lord, but one thing that will not happen, and you can check me out in Scripture, the one thing that will not happen is God will never ask you, did your family know me? He'll either say, well done, thy good and faithful servant, or go away. But he will not ask us, how was Papa? How was Grandma? How was your mom and dad? How did they do okay? No. It's a personal relationship. You must be born again. That's the new us.